guys, it's House Rules Pod. I'm your host, Rachel LaForce.
I am your other host, Alex Getlin.
Alex, how are you?
It's always weird when you address me by my first name. It makes sense in this context because it'd be like weird if you called me.
Because it'd be like weird.
I think you're weird today. You're very giddy today. You're very just full of love and energy.
Well, I have a lot to look forward to. I'm also, I'm glad that this is the outcome from just, I think, utter overwhelm.
Yeah.
Like normally my go-to when I get really overwhelmed is just like, you remember that the cartoon Kathy?
I remember Daria.
No, it's just a cartoon like in the newspaper, and it was Kathy, and she was like a middle-aged woman. It was just like the most awful example for women. Like any middle-aged woman was just like, eek, I'm Kathy. And it was just like her.
Like she had no skills.
Well, it was always just like, I like my period, or like, oh, I can't bake a cake. But like it was always just eek was written next to it of like, eek.
And she was middle-aged and she couldn't bake a cake?
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing. I don't know. I mean, I don't really remember it. Obviously, I was like 7 when I was like taking in
Clearly
this content.
It shaped you into adulthood.
Most people listening know who Kathy is that are over over the age of 30.
Anyone watching live, comment, have you seen Kathy? I have my phone open, so I'll be watching the comments here. But is there anything in particular you wanted to start with? Because I found my dad, shout out Bob Getlin, if you're watching. He sent me this article that I think you'll like.
You think I'll like, or you think it's going to instigate me?
Both. It's both.
Okay.
But I'll pause and I'll say it involves one of your favorite actors and one of your favorite wellness things.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Is Idris Elba starring in a new series about meditation or something?
So close. So close, but not quite. Joey, do you have that article? He's getting it ready. Okay, cool. There we go. All right. Wait, that's not the right one. Damn it. No, that's the one I sent you, and then...
So that is the one that you sent
No,
him.
this would happen. Let me explain this. Something's weird with Facebook. So the link that my dad sent me, it reads as that when it, like, in the Facebook message, but when I open it, it sends a different article.
Okay, well, just tell me the article.
Well, now it's not as cool, so I'm going to...
Oh, yeah. So now let's just ruin it for everybody who's listening.
No, I'm going to tell you, so you can get rid of that. That's not on anybody. It's technology. But it's more interesting when you react to it in person. So Jason Bateman has his own CBD line. I don't know if you've heard of this.
What?
Right? Exactly. Pretty cool, right? Yeah.
Of course he would.
But here's the thing.
Of course he would.
But here's the thing. Actually, while we're doing this, Joey, if you have a sec, see if you can find, just Google Jason Bateman CBD line People magazine.
Wait, I got to go back to how the wrong article came up. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I know, but so the article that we just came up said 9 foods to relieve stress. So my dad sent me on Facebook Messenger a link, and he's like, hey, you'll enjoy this. And that's what like the preview on Facebook Messenger was. And then I clicked it, though, and it redirected me to this Jason Bateman article. And I kept trying to like find it. So I don't know something got crossed in the wires of this link. But either way, the article I read worked. So,
okay. But maybe your dad just meant to send us the one about the stress foods.
No, I'm positive because he and I had a conversation on Facebook about how cool Jason Bateman was for.
I know you just had a very large cup of coffee before we started, but I'm here, I'm with you, and I'm listening.
Get out of here. Hold on. I want to make sure I have this open so if the comments come in. So here's the deal. So Jason Bateman, who doesn't love Jason Bateman, right? He's been in so many great things. Ozark, The Stranger, Arrested Development, Horrible Bosses. You're not amused by me reading off his IMDb.
Well, I thought you were going to read like the stuff from the 80s that made him Jason Bateman, the Jason Bateman that we know. Because he did take there was like a 15-year hiatus where nobody really saw Jason Bateman.
I actually don't really remember anything about Bateman before Arrested Development.
Yeah, so he was like a child star, essentially.
From what show?
I don't know the name of them because they were before my time.
Well, either way. Do you want to look it up?
Well, no. Apparently, you were just. This is what you do. This Getlin. When you go Getlin, you go hard, and you're like ham fisting.
Because I could see us getting in like a 20-minute conversation about like the depths of Jason Bateman's IMDb, and I really want to talk about this CBD thing. So he has his own CBD line.
Yeah, you told me that part.
Why are you being a jerk?
Keep going.
So I ordered some samples because I was like so excited to try Jason Bateman's CBD. But turns out he is being sued by not one but two big pharma companies.
What?
Because they're claiming, I don't know how they're like legally allowed to sue him, but basically because his CBD medication has been so popular and it's cut into their profits, there's some sort of law with like price gouging or something. So like, it's, to me, it highlights how
that big pharma is a giant scam
corrupt,
and like fuck them.
how corrupt and gross big pharma is. And I was talking with our previous guest, your friend of mine, Jake Starkey, who is also very big into the CBD industry, and he and I were he was explaining to me all these different things that big pharma has tried to do to stop CBD from being readily available, to make it harder for people to get it instead of their drugs.
Yeah.
So Jason Bateman went on I forget what talk show, but was on a talk show and talked about this. He said that they're trying to sue him and muscle out his company because they don't want people having CBD as an alternative to their medication.
Of course they don't, because CBD is way more affordable. It doesn't have nearly the side effects. Like the worst thing of CBD, the worst report is somebody goes, yeah, I didn't really feel a difference.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Somebody tries to take Prozac to calm down. You know what I mean? They come back and they're like, I blacked out for 2 weeks. I have no idea what happened.
So on this talk show, he's like, so by the way, they can try and sue me if they want. I don't care. I'm Jason Bateman. I can handle it. And I have free samples for all of you in the audience. Please take them at your leisure. I would love.
Dude, yes, Jason Bateman. Dude, I love that. If anybody needed another reason to be Team Bateman, here you are.
Yeah. And there was like a bunch of celebrities that quoted that they've used Jason's stuff. It was like Tom Hanks and all these like really big stars who talked about the like people who aren't cannabis affiliated, but they've had pain or anxiety or something, and they've taken CBD, and they're like, yeah, this is so much. I don't have any side effects.
Yeah, but I mean, yep. See, this is the instigated part. This is where I get instigated.
But this is good conversation.
Because, thank you so much. Because I get so angry that greed supersedes our well-being.
Of course.
And especially because when people, now some folks have, different imbalances that are greater than, 1,000 milligrams of CBD. They can benefit from, there is a lot of good that's come from Western medicine. I'm not, dismissing that. But the problem is, as soon as they realize like, oh, we could make money doing this, then they just made everything under the sun. And the most impactful thing I've heard recently about prescription pills was this idea of side effects. And the quote was basically like, you have to remember, these aren't side effects. These are just other effects of these drugs.
Right.
So they're selling you like, oh, this is what it does. Also, it might cause this and that. No. It does cause all of these things. We're just selling you this part of it. Yeah, my mind exploded.
That's a great way to put it. But it's so true. I guess the thing is...
it's the only way to put it. That is the honest way of putting it. And
I think listen, I'm team you. I understand that...
I'm sorry, can I get that in writing?
That's how you know it was funny, because Joey laughed. Whenever Joey, our engineer, laughs... That's because he hears our dumb voices every Monday.
Yeah, and he also listens to other people's dumb voices all day long.
That's true. He's a full-time podcast engineer. So if we can make him laugh, that's how you know we're onto something. But anyway, I have no love for big pharma. I do understand making medicine is very expensive, and I know how capitalism and innovation works. But there is something to be said about the level of inhumanity it has to take, that you're willing to let people's health suffer in the name of making money. That's really what it is.
But it's also anything. Certainly making medicines are more expensive. You need laboratories, you need multiple bodies.
Tons of lawyers to protect you for...
Right, there's all sorts of things. But it's also like, it's not that expensive. There are ways that they can figure out to minimize their cost. Yeah. They don't have to be pushing as many drugs. That's the other thing. So whenever I hear that bullshit argument, I'm just like, no, not here for it. Well, it's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. Because the fact is, it's like, again, and this thought always makes me very sad. And I hesitate to say it on here because so many people's lives have been, really torn apart because of cancer. Mm-hmm. But the fact that these companies make so much money off of cancer treatments with no cure, And it's like, that's a thing that you hear all the time around big pharma as well. Of like, well, why would they want to cure it? Because then they're going to lose out on all this money. And it's like, that is such a dark thing. That's why I'm like, I even hesitate to say it, because it makes me, I mean, obviously, so incredibly sad.
This Chris Rock bit about this? He has a whole great bit in one of his specials. And he said, this effectively, but then it ends with, you know what the last thing we cured was? Polio.
Yeah.
That's how long ago people were curing diseases. But you know what's really interesting? So back to your thing about how they just sell you the effect and call them side effects. Do you know the story behind Viagra?
Yeah.
Right. So for people who don't know, they were making it as heart medication, and then the test subjects were like, I'm getting these like crazy boners from taking this drug. And then they were like, oh, that's a way easier thing to sell. And they just started marketing it.
And they also covered it on health insurance, but not every health insurance covers birth control. So, you know.
I don't think every health insurance, first of all, that's messed up. But secondly, I don't know if every health insurance covers Viagra.
It is fact that it's more readily covered than birth control.
That makes sense. And that is...
No, that's the end of the sentence. That makes sense because, you know, of course it is.
No, I was going to say that makes sense and it's unfair. Birth control is very necessary, but I've also learned how, like, it's not like you just take it and, like, everything's fine. Like,
it's awful for you. I mean, you want to talk about something with, like, extreme, negative side effects? It's awful. It's literally, like... I mean,
not for everyone. Some people seem to be okay with it. Like some women seem like they just either they don't notice that it changes them, or it's.
But also, some women have been on it since they were like 15.
Yeah.
And so physiologically, your body adapts and changes. I mean, that's why it's so difficult for a lot of women to conceive, because they've been on it for so long, and to get off of it, your body needs about 3 to 6 months to re-regulate.
Makes sense.
Then to get used to an operating system, and then being like, oh, now we're introducing something else to try to make a baby. Like, I mean, I hadn't been on birth control in years.
Right.
And then I had tried to go on like a copper IUD. And the copper one is the one that it literally, this is crazy, is like copper apparently like expels sperm. It like doesn't want anything to do with it. So that's all it does. It doesn't like give you any hormones or anything, just like sperm come near it and it's like, no thanks. Like that's
I'm just imagining like the ad, like some copper bouncer at your cervix, like, not today, spermies. And then you're like, oh man, we can't get in.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty much it. But I
don't know why the sperm sounded like Shaq in that act out, but
I also think you said cervix, but I didn't want to go back to it.
I know how it's pronounced. I'm sorry.
Do you?
Cervix.
Okay, thank you.
What did I say? Cervix?
Yeah, it was weird.
I think I was combining cervix and cerviche, and I was just. I apologize for the mental image there. By the way, shout out to Myron and Todd Verono for you guys that are watching right now. Thank you.
Hey.
Todd's having a baby soon.
Todd is having a baby soon.
Very cool.
We will meet their baby when we go back to Atlanta.
We will.
But I think it is going back to the CBD thing of, I'm such a huge proponent of, both on like a spiritual level, but then, on a regular earthly level. It's like CBD is a plant.
Yeah.
Or it's a part of a plant. Excuse me. Cannabis is the plant. CBD is an element of it. And again, where I always say, why it works so wonderfully is it's literally a puzzle piece to our brain. That whatever the way that we adapt it or whatever, we have all of these cannabinoids that are firing. So it's literally pistons that are firing. And the more either like mentally ill or, disruptive thought. So like I have ADD, ADHD, I have sensory overload, and I'm definitely on like the farther end spectrum of OCD. So meaning like my OCD is very, very, very minimal, right?
I feel like your brain is like a Roku playing all the channels at once.
100%. There is so much going on all of the time. It's just like if you were to watch videos of people doing Rubik's Cubes super fast, that's just my brain all of the time,
Okay.
Just trying to like put things into place. So a lot of that is because I have all these different pistons and things are firing and it doesn't have anything to connect to.
Yeah.
So that's what CB does so beautifully is it allows that to be connected to something and it creates this better sense of balance.
I mean, it seems like the science is pretty conclusive.
Yeah.
And I do think we're going to look back on this time. Like now it's becoming, more and more readily available. I believe it's legal in all 50 states now.
Well, now we need to work on the regulation of it because if you're getting CBD from like a grocery store,
well, that's the problem.
You're just getting.
I do trust Bateman's company because I love Jason. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying those like hole in the wall. Like I've seen them now in Ohio where it's just like there's like a flag out front and says like CBD, and it's like don't go there
because anybody can call something CBD,
right?
Because of the or lack of regulation. Rather,
it's like when people call themselves a rapper or a DJ
or a comedian.
Ooh.
Or a podcaster.
This is true.
Or a photographer.
Yep.
You can be anything now. I mean, there's really no barrier. I mean, I guess that's fine.
But that's what's great about being a doctor.
I was just thinking
the only way you can be a doctor is going to school.
There's like 7 jobs where you have to like pass a test, like fireman, police, although we got to work on that.
Yep.
Medicine, law. I guess that's it, really. There's a few other things, I suppose. I remember our friend.
I mean, and like a mechanic. I guess you'd have to like actually be able to fix the car.
But there's workarounds. I guarantee you there's guys who have like I get what you're saying there, but there's no like certification board.
Yeah.
This is going in a weird direction. My point is, I think we're gonna look back on this time with CBD stuff, and it would be like now if like ibuprofen was prescription only. If Big Pharma tried to regulate vitamins.
I know, but I believe that, but I also don't believe that Big Pharma is going anywhere. I mean, I think that they will do a lot to try to. What's going to happen is they're going to figure out a way to saturate the market with CBD.
Yeah.
Especially once like THC becomes legal in all 50 states. They're going to figure out some way to capitalize on it. Like they're not just going to like be steamrolled by these like pop-up companies. There's no way.
I agree, but as long as I do agree half, right? Like I think of it slightly akin to like craft breweries versus Anheuser-Busch. Like the 3 major companies that control like the big brands of beer, they have all the muscle that dictates like where the shelf placement is in the store and who gets to advertise at sports and stuff like that. But the market, another one of the beauties of the free market, was like, I don't want to drink shitty beer. I want to try this cool craft beer stuff. And over time, it just became popular and people went to it on its own. I think that's what's happening with CBD. The more the Jason Batemans of the world, I mean, my mom, my 71-year-old, is she 71 yet?
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Shout out, Mom, if you're watching.
Yeah, her birthday was in August.
I know, but okay. My 71-year-old mother, who does not like cannabis in any form, put CBD cream on her feet for pain, and she loves it. She like my dad rave about it.
Well, it's great because it's really gentle.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of, which is like that. I would say that's the biggest like con would be that like sometimes people are like, oh, well, I didn't like feel it as much as I thought I would, right?
Yeah.
Like you take a Xanax, like you feel like you took a Xanax.
But that's good that it's not like that. It's good.
I agree.
Yeah,
and I think it also has the ability to help so many different people. And I'm really if I can say this, I'm very grateful to Jason Bateman for doing that. Because
aren't we all just as Americans?
But I mean, I think so. If Bateman ran for president, hands down, everybody would vote for him.
I will say,
what a chill America we would be under Bateman.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But here's the thing. I don't want people like...
It's a joke, Alex.
I know that. God, why can't I tag on your joke with just a thought?
Because it's not going to be just a thought. It's going to be like, I know, but if like, if we start saying that, then everybody's going to think, that they can run for president and, then we're going to have all these people on our ticket. And then really, what is our democracy? And,
Anyway, Jason, you have an open invite to come on House Rules. Should you ever want to announce your campaign or just hang out with us and promote your CBD line.
Bateman, anytime. We got to cheer for you. You know what I mean?
We can Zoom you in or Skype you in. Zoom doesn't work here. Anyway, that's inside baseball, but our system is not set up for Zoom. Was that funny for you?
That was very funny. You got so excited that you wanted to give Bateman the actual factual information,
Well, listen, maybe someone's
Makes
listening.
you a good producer. You know what I mean?
All I'm saying is he's got a CBD line. He's trying to raise awareness. It wouldn't be that much effort on his part to just pop in for 10 minutes virtually.
Yeah, you don't have to sell me.
I know, but I'm selling the universe. You've opened my eyes to that. Put it out there. The universe will hear it. You know what Jason would be great for if he would ever do it? My new show that I'll announce because it's finally signed and sealed is going to come out in January. Highly unlikely that you are co-producing with me. You're the showrunner. I'm the host. It's going to be great. I'm going to be promoting it a ton in the coming weeks as we lead up to January. But the very short premise of the show, I bring on a guest, I get them stoned, and I teach them about something that is super crazy, almost highly unlikely, but is totally 100% true.
And so that was a universal thing because you had this project for a long time. You wanted to do something with it. and you were like, I don't know, because we thought about producing it ourselves, and you're like, I don't know, I feel like it's like kind of special. I'm like, all right, well, hold on to it. When you know you're ready to pull the trigger, we'll know.
Yeah.
And there's a few different Hollywood job boards that I check every now and then just to kind of see, like, what's going on. Or again, if somebody's looking for a show specifically like this. And I saw there was a new cannabis company that was looking for like already ready to go podcasts. And I'm like, no way. And it's like at the bottom of this jobs list. You know what I mean? Like almost felt tucked away, like just there being like, pick me. I'm like, no way. So, just like with everything, where it's always a stab in the dark. You never know what lead is going to go to something else.
Yep.
And then I knew right away from like, you were on the phone with that guy for like an hour. And I'm like, I think this is going to be good. And now here we are 3 months later, contracts signed and sealed.
Took a little bit of lawyers kind of hashing out details.
I spent more time with lawyers than I expected to.
I've never, but it was really cool because this was our first, this is like one of those like milestones in our careers. Is like we have now officially had a creative project. I started it, but it's ours together now. And found an attorney. They helped us really make it a reality. And like this is real. Like we're really producing our art for a financial return. And this company's going to love it because it helps them have cool content for their platform.
So hopefully you guys will love it because that's what will help us make more of them. So it's called Highly Unlikely. It'll be coming out in January 2021. But I'll tell you what, I feel so overwhelmed with the amount of things that we're going to be giving like literal birth to in 2021. But especially in January.
Yeah.
Because we've got my flower cart is it's hitting the streets, baby.
Shout out to Bill the Builder.
Dude, yeah, my friend Bill Wordy, man. He's like this amazing horror writer and director. And I pitched a show with him to Comedy Central. We've always been buddies. Like I had a radio show back in Chicago in college, and he used to come and do like guests. The Monday Night Show.
Pretty on the nose.
And it was every Monday night. It was great.
Kind of like this.
It was the original podcast. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And anyway, I've known Bill for years, and so he's building it, and that's almost done. So the flower cart, boom, is going to be ready to hit the streets. I'm like not even going to know what to do with myself, and I'm like a literal Eliza Doolittle out on the street with flowers. I'm stoked.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, so we'll have that. We're rebranding our podcast, which we're going to be announcing in December. So we're going to have that coming out, which is a lot of fun stuff with that, and then Highly Unlikely.
Pretty cool.
Pretty big stuff. So do you want to break down for me your Kanye takeaway?
Sure. Yes.
Because you've told me a little bit about it here and there, and I like to save for the listeners. I like to save when I can feel him ready to go off about a subject. The way now to mitigate that, like as romantic partners, I'll just go, ooh, you should save that for the podcast. So if it's something,
well, now it sounds like you're talking to me like I'm a toddler.
No.
Boo.
No, but if I know it's going to be something, I mean, the conversations we have on this podcast, I'd like to let people know. We have those in our home all the time. That's why we're tired all the time.
Well, I'll tell you this real quick. Joey, did you listen to Kanye on Joe Rogan by chance? You didn't? Okay. So I'll be honest, the first 30 minutes was a little tough to get through because his brain is all over the place and he's just kind of shouting. No, he wasn't shouting, but he was just kind of going on ideas and tangents and stuff. And then Joe kind of helped him rein it in. And it was a little bit sort of moving forward with stuff. And so when you see Kanye in these sound bites, it's very easy to look at him like, oh, he's just nuts and ranting. But when I listen to him for this like long 3-hour interview, which I know it's a long time, but
it's a really long time to listen to Joe Rogan and Kanye West.
Well, and I know like, oh, of course you're like a Joe Rogan bro, but a lot of his interviews are that long. But Kanye really had a lot of quite insightful things to talk about that I really. What are you making that face for?
I had a twitch.
No, because listen, if you don't want to listen to it, it's fine. But there were some things that were really incredible, and we talked about this in the car a little bit, and he was highlighting how, when you're an artist at that level, when you're that successful and that talented, people are constantly trying to control you and steal from you. It's nonstop. And he was just going through kind of the different instances where it took him a long time to understand how big industries kept trying to control him. And he has all this money and he's trying to get, I guess what it is, he's trying to get the rights back to his music and Universal won't sell him. And he's been trying to get his way onto the board of Universal.
So he doesn't own the rights to any of his music?
I think he might own like his last album or his last two, but there's a lot of his library he does not own. And so then and I'm paraphrasing this because, it was 3 hours and I can only remember so much. But he did say, he's like, listen, I was like not that recently $50 million in debt, and now I have billions in like in the red, or in the black rather. He's like, I will become a billionaire enough where I'll just buy Universal and then I'll own my rights that way. He's like, you're not going to stop me from getting my music back. If you don't want to put me on the board, I'll own the board. And I did. And I know it sounds a little bit like wackadoo, but I mean, if anyone could pull it off, it is Kanye West.
No, that to me sounds like the second act of like a Diane Keaton movie where it's like, really? You won't let me? I can't be on the board? Fine. I'm going to buy the board. You know, and then the whole second act is her like figuring out what she's going to do.
And
Joey's on board.
Yeah. And listen, I will say, I'm not advocating Kanye for president. I don't actually, like, I'm not like, yeah, but listening to him, a lot of the ideas and intentions he has of where this country needs to go, there's a lot of sound logic there. Like, I would actually, if I had any decision-making power, I'd be like, Kanye, you're not the guy, but I actually do appreciate what you might be able to influence someone in power to consider. The same what Kim has done for criminal justice reform. I know it's very easy to write these people off like they're all just these cartoonish idiots, and there is truth to that, but they also have actually done stuff.
But also, like, you don't get to play both sides. That's my opinion. You don't get to do nothing but, like, make your waist as small as possible based off of surgery, and then that's all you do is take pictures of it and then go, but now I want people to take me seriously. Like, no, if you speak with vocal... But it's like, if you speak with vocal fry and then that's all you do and then ask me to take you seriously, it's like... I'm happy to do that. And I'm not saying that you can't be both like, you know, conventionally attractive and then also have a brain. Like I'm smarter than that. But what I'm saying is when you are projecting one image for over a decade and asking people to applaud you for that and then being upset that nobody's taking you seriously, that's tone deaf as shit. Like, I'm sorry. It's just like, I think that's absolutely idiotic.
I understand that. Well, I'll leave that one.
And I'll say when it comes to Kanye, it's like, you know, like, yeah, maybe he has some good ideas. Yeah, I know a lot of people with good ideas. I got a couple neighbors that I could talk about with policy all night long that I'm like, wish somebody would listen to you. Doesn't mean I think that they should run for...
I know. And to be clear, again, I am not endorsing, advocating, or supporting Kanye as the leader of the free world.
We've already voted.
We did. Yeah. Do you want to share who you voted for?
I think the listeners are pretty clear on that.
Do you want to share who I voted for?
No, you can do that on your own.
I thought you were going to also say the listeners are also pretty clear on that.
Oh,
neither. I'll just say neither one of us voted for Trump. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I voted for Joe Biden. I wasn't stoked to do it, but that was the option on the table. I was certainly not going to vote for Trump, and I'm very, I'm dismayed by the Democratic Party. I feel let down by the Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party to me reminds me of like a girl that you date when you're younger. I was like, oh, you're pretty cool, man. You're fun. You know, like I'm thinking Obama era, right? Like I'm just like, yeah, you seem like a lot of fun, cool, hip, whatever. And then I got to know him better and I was like, oh, you guys are just like hypocrites too. It's just you're better at hiding it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I think on both sides there are people who really want to do good things on their, you know, for their different policies. But then ultimately, like, again, greed rules out. And it's like this, you know, this, and again, this is just my opinion, but, you know, it's like I think the Biden-Harris ticket was exactly that, of like they had so many people who really could have done a lot of really radical, they wouldn't have done radical change because they would still have to go through the House and the Senate. And I think the majority of what they were wanting to do would probably be blocked. But the fact that those folks would have a platform for 4 years and be able to really speak some ideals and allow folks who don't subscribe to that sort of life or those policies had the time to hear those folks. I mean, that's a lot of it too. When you're only hearing people in sound bites or you're only hearing people regurgitated back to you through either like, you know, if you're conservative, so you're only watching Fox News. I know not all conservatives watch Fox News, but you know, if all you're
only
listening
the true
to
ones. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God. But I'm saying if like you're only hearing your insight from like Tommy Lauren, Candace Owens, and like Tucker Carlson, then yeah, you're gonna have one point of view on the other side.
Marry, fuck, kill. Those three right now.
Oh, that's literally makes me want to throw up in my mouth.
Come on, if you had to pick.
For sure, all day long I'm going to kill Tommy Lauren. I feel so awful in saying that. I know she's a human who's out there and trying her best, but also try harder.
Who would you F if you had to?
Oh my God, I almost said something so dirty. I don't think I can say it on air. Oh, it's so funny though. I'll just say this: Candace Owens, and then
You would be married to Tucker Carlson.
and I would marry Tucker Carlson.
Wow, what a life you two would have together.
Yeah, I mean, what else? What's my other? I mean, there's nothing. Honestly, thinking about having to engage with Tommy Lauren makes me need to pull up every single ounce of compassion I can possibly muster.
Well, my issue with her is she just seems like a showman.
That's what I mean. Where I'm like, ugh,
Candace,
we get it, we hear you.
Candace, I think, actually believes in what she's saying. Tommy, and you can like her or not, but Tommy seems like it's all performative.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But we can move on from that.
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to
I'm also not saying that if you like those folks or whatever, that they're, I'm just saying these are my opinions. Okay. That's all it is.
The other thing that I took away from the Kanye thing with the interview is he had a lot of great advice and just like kind of anecdotes about how much we let fear control us without ever even realizing it. So he's like really into like engineering. He's not an engineer himself, but he's really into like the successes of Elon Musk's inventions and things like that. And he was talking about he's like met a lot with these different people from MIT that could be incredible entrepreneurs, but they're too scared to bet on themselves. And they end up going and working for these big companies that control them. And he was just talking about like, we need to like rework our brains. And he's like found his new faith again. And he's like super into gods. He was talking about like, trust in God, God has a plan for you, et cetera, which some people think is silly. I don't necessarily believe that like God watches over all of us and has like a plan, et cetera. But I am starting to feel more like of the mindset of like, we're never going to know. So why not just go with that and just roll the dice? What?
I just love the thought of you starting your own church and you're like, so we're all here because we don't really know, but I guess this will be fine. So everybody grab a hymnal, and we're just going to sing or something.
It was like a Mike Ditka church.
Yeah, kind of.
I just feel like I think there's this trend that I've seen, to generalize, but it seems to be in cities like here where people mock people who have very strong faith in like Christianity or something like that. Like
which I think is so silly.
Yeah, and I've never been
the mocking of it, not Christians.
No, I understand. I think because unfortunately you and I both know there's people that sometimes fall on their faith as a scapegoat to be allowed to.
But also if people, I mean, again, and you talk about this all the time of like, we can't assume that anybody who subscribes to one group is monolithic.
Right.
It does us a disservice, and it also cuts us off from curiosity. It cuts us off from connecting with people that think differently than us.
Well,
and there are so many of those, people that hide behind their faith.
Yeah.
There's people who tout their faith, right? And then it was like, found out they were, stopping at a glory hole outside of a Waffle House in Tennessee.
I know, right?
We've seen that happen too. But ultimately, I think choosing to be connected to something higher than yourself, I think is really beautiful. I think it allows for, kind of the release of ego in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people who are able to accept surrender in different situations shows an immense amount of strength.
Accept surrender sounds like if you had like a Whitney Houston album, but like that style of music that you were like, if you were a singer in another life.
Yeah.
It was like Rachel LaForce. Accept Surrender. The Accept Surrender tour this summer.
Oh my gosh, I would crush it.
Right?
There's so much just champagne colored curtains
What would
everywhere.
be your dream venue? If you were like a Whitney Houston level pop star, right? Like touring the globe, anywhere, worldwide, even on the moon, if they built a stage there, where would be your dream venue to launch the Accept Surrender tour with Rachel LaForce as a pop star?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can tell you like my real answers of like where I want to tour.
Yeah, let's hear it. Why not?
I want to do something at the Grand Ole Opry.
I don't know what that is.
I'm sorry. You don't know what the Grand Ole Opry is?
No. What is it?
It's Joey, you don't know what it is either? Oh my gosh, friends. So it's like the iconic place in Nashville. It's where all, like, if you want to be in country music, that's where you go, is the Grand Ole Opry.
Okay.
So it was where like Dolly Parton got her start. It's where like anybody within music, like that's, oh, here we go. It's photo time. Here we go. It's when we sit up. Okay.
All right. So anybody in country music.
Anybody in country music, it's the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, it's their Broadway.
Yeah.
And it's right. And it's funny because it's not actually as large as you would think. So I've been to it in Nashville before when I was touring with Second City. We popped over there. But it's like any iconic building. So like Second City or the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Where you walk in and there's a vibration.
Okay.
It's almost like you can hear from all the people that have always been in that room, in a sense. Like there's noise to the silence, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So Grand Ole Opry.
That's an interesting way to. It makes sense, but it's a very interesting way to articulate it. Noise to the silence.
Yeah.
I would say there's more of a vibration to the silence.
Yeah, I mean that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Red Rocks.
I was gonna say that. That's my dream.
I gotta do something. I mean that's my hope of like, when we do some sort of like double tour and that's what we're doing, like we gotta do Red Rocks.
I'm just picturing you, because I know you love 70s chic.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like some 70s chic, like bell bottom, like pantsuit type thing, but like a cool one, right? And then you've just got this long, flowy hair, and there's like a light behind you with a silhouette. You're doing some ballad of Accept Surrender.
Yep.
Accept
Surrender.
I think you'd kill it.
Oh my gosh, it'd be great. It'd be great.
In another life.
My third one is Radio City Music Hall.
That's a classic. That's a good one.
So we'll see. Stay tuned.
So I just wanted to say one other thought on the Kanye thing, and we'll leave that alone for now.
Okay.
But the biggest,
we gotta move into what we think is going to happen in this next week, because next week will be the day before the election.
Oh, I know.
When we do our.
Just the last thing I'll say is just that there was a lot of talk of people saying like it's all a publicity stunt, it's all hype, he's just trying to sell albums, whatever. It's I don't think it's any of that. He really truly this is the part where he kind of lost me. He believes that like God has like empowered him to save America, which that's a
wow.
So that part was a little bit all right, Kanye, but he did have a lot of very well thought out and well articulate. Like, it wasn't just a joke. He really has thought long and hard about a lot of the things he wants to do.
But again, I mean, he is for sure bipolar.
Yeah.
And has also experienced, mega fame that not a lot of people experience. So his experience has been, what's the word I'm looking for? Like an outlier, in a sense. And I'm sure he is incredibly smart. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, but it's like, I think he definitely has like manic tendencies, like saying, yeah, God has sent me here to like save the American people. That's a little bit of a manic statement that probably goes into the, bipolar category, but also, wanting to ask people to step outside of, their fear. I mean, that's all I am about, of like wanting to, I think as soon as people, a friend of mine, he believes that like really life can be broken down into two things, love and fear.
Yeah.
And then at any time you can tap into one or the other.
It's a classic trope.
And, it's like, but it's so true.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's, I think that it's like this election is the perfect example of being like seeing fear out there. Like now I feel like when I go on the internet, this is all it is. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. That's all it is.
You know what
That's all it is. Everybody being like, look, I voted. I'm better than you. If I've called 97 phone banks. I've done this thing. If you're not doing this thing, you're a racist. They don't, the left is crazy. They don't know, like, I don't want boys in my girls' bathroom. Like, it's just all it is people.
What a dumb issue to care about.
Just all of it. I mean, honestly, I don't want to say all of it is dumb. That's not true, because I know it's affecting like millions and millions of people. But I'm saying when we're able just for a moment to be able to just zoom out of what's happening, it's really quite hilarious. Yeah. Because right now, the whole world tuned in multiple times to watch Donald Trump debate Joe Biden. Yeah. Like the fact that like, if that doesn't wake up America enough, then we're all fucked. Because if everybody is not realizing, wait a minute, somehow we have created a system where our livelihood, millions upon millions, almost 1 billion people in our country, and our livelihood comes down to Donald Trump or Joe Biden, we fucked up, y'all. Like, I mean...
But here's the only...
I know that's super simplified, but I am just saying that there is something to looking at it in such that simplified fashion, which is like,
But here's just a counterpoint I'll throw out there. It's just something to ruminate on, right? And I'm not a Trump fan at all. I don't like he's a bad leader. He makes me laugh sometimes, but as a president, I do not like him. What?
There was that video of him dancing, and he like tried to show it to me to make me laugh, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm still not on board, but I get it."
That's not a reason to vote for the guy, but it's hilarious. It is hilarious if you can set. Okay, my point is, it has to be someone like Donald Trump who's going to go into that old system we have and turn it on its head. Anybody who's going to go through the regular channel, I mean, even Bernie couldn't do it. And I don't even like a lot of Bernie's policies, but he was really trying to plow in there and be like, we need to change this whole fucking thing.
Right.
And they muscled him out.
No, because the difference is what it wasn't that like Donald Trump had a thing that Bernie didn't. The Dems didn't want Bernie to go through because they were going to have to financially do things different if Bernie really was able to put all these things through.
Right.
A lot of the Republicans love Trump doing this because then what they could do is they could encourage Trump to turn over all sorts of things that they really wanted to, but then they could go, oh, no, that wasn't us, Republican Party. That was Trump. Don't worry about it. So it's all about secrets. It's bullshit.
I get that. I mean, I do wonder what's going to happen to what's going to be the Republican Party after Trump.
Or what's going to be the Democratic Party? I mean, it's the same thing for both sides. It's like, I mean, I respect both folks on both sides. Let me say that. I agree more with folks on the left.
Sure. I tend to also.
I value things with folks on the left. But, when we're not looking at values because values are different than policy and is also different than the party. And right now, I feel like the Democratic Party, is still like funneling just as much money from, private sectors just as much as the right. And so it's so easy. I mean, again, to your point of like this hypocrisy, and that's where I come back to this thing where it's like all I feel like I hear is just people being like, "You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong." Like,
but most people don't even want to engage. It's just the people on the internet. That's what they're doing.
No, I know, but it also still does everybody who does genuinely want to engage a disservice. I mean,
100%.
It's a bummer that people don't feel that it is safe or worth their time to engage with the policies that govern their life.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me that people would rather talk about, the season finale of The Kardashians or rewatch season 1 of The Hills because that's easier to stomach, or just keep investing in football because that's easier to stomach than to really be invested in their government system.
Yeah, but also, to be fair, even you and I, who I'd say, especially me, but you too, to an extent, are more apt to want to like dig through what's going on to get the truth. And even we burn out like, I can't make sense of this. I don't know.
Well, certainly. But again, that's part of the system. Again, here we are. We all tuned in to watch Joe Biden debate.
Well, there's a lot of things that I think everyone who's not in a position of leadership would agree, like any regular people, not whoever side you're on, could agree this is what we need. Okay, ranked choice voting. Are you familiar with ranked choice voting?
No.
So ranked choice voting, which Maine finally made it on their system, and I think Alaska might have too. What it does is instead of just
the two literal tips of America,
right, that are super cold. The reason who's fighting it is the leadership in the GOP and the Democrats.
Yeah.
So ranked choice voting is instead of picking one person that you say, that's who I vote for president, and that's it, you rank your first to last choice. So for me, I voted Joe Jorgensen for the Libertarian Party because I believe in the platform and I want to get more attention to that. Stop rolling your eyes at me.
I wasn't. I got tired for a second.
Shut up. But then I could put my second choice vote. So when they do the ballot counting and they see, oh, the Libertarian, they're not even close, that's not in the running, who's the second choice? And that's it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
But states don't want that, or rather the major parties don't want that because it allows people to throw support.
Of course, and even like the amount when I watched, if you guys haven't watched Explained on Netflix, please do yourself a favor. It's so digestible and wonderful. So basically they break down all sorts of different like cultural and different things in the zeitgeist. They're all 20-minute episodes, and each one is narrated by like a different celebrity. They're really wonderful.
Netflix, I do voiceover. I've done a Butterfinger commercial. I've got my reel on YouTube. I would crush at it. Explained or History 101, either one of those.
Well, there you go. That's
maybe
a goal.
My new show, Highly Unlikely, will get me work doing VO. I'm not kidding. I'm putting that out in the universe. That would be awesome.
There you go. That's
also, VO agents. I'm not repped currently.
Okay, come back to me. So, but Explained also did a whole mini series breaking down voting.
Yep.
And one where they talk about voter suppression.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, this system is not designed for us to win.
Well, the other thing that doesn't make any sense to me that I think anybody who's not in power would agree to, we have so many dumb federal holidays. Why is Election Day not a federal holiday? We've got President's Day. We've got
because again,
Columbus
it
Day.
blocks people that don't have the people who are in hourly jobs can't leave.
But it's just like so obvious and egregious now. I mean, what is Labor Day? What are we celebrating on Labor Day or President's Day? Cancel President's Day, make Election Day, or give us another day off of work. Make it another holiday. Who cares?
I mean, none of it is fair and it doesn't make sense. And I think that that's more where I'm at this point when it comes to talking about politics is more of like, to me, it's no longer so much about left and right, because I also feel like that just keeps us zoomed in on the issues rather than that outward focus that really allows us to decide like, okay, wait a minute. So what do we value? Where do we want to align ourselves? Where do we have power? Like that's I think I spoke about this organization on the podcast, but there's this organization here called Zodiac the Vote. And I know it sounds rather silly, but they basically like break down like major milestones in history with like what was going on astrologically. It's basically an idea of trying to educate a whole bunch of people that are probably into astrology and don't know very much about their community and politics and things like that. But they've done amazing work at even talking about, where there's all these propositions that we vote on and nobody ever knows what the hell it is. And then if you read it in the booklet, like when you read the one to me and you said, do you know what this means? And I said, it means we're fucked. That's what it means. Because it literally like, it's so inconclusive and the language is so...
Did I tell you what my friend Michelle, who's in law school, said to me about those?
Yeah, they're designed to confuse you.
She said, the real reason it's written that way, one, to confuse the average voter, but also to make it confusing in the courtroom. So if they have to go and battle it out with a judge, there's a lot of room to, and you know who pays for that? Us, the fucking taxpayer.
Yeah, of course. And so, that's again why so I thought that this was great because what they did is they're like suggesting, they're like, find a small group of people and like everybody picks a different proposition and then you research it. So you're only responsible for one. Everybody comes back together. You share what you've learned. And then 10 people right there were educated on all of the, propositions. And then you're done. You only had to look up one.
Yeah.
Like things like that.
That
It's like
sense.
The amount of people that have different, community groups or like mommy and me's or Bible study, all of that. It's like, dude, if we took half of that energy into being like, hey, like you went to that one city council meeting, right? And you were like, oh, I thought my eyes were going to bleed. It was so long. But if one person out of 5 people, if you've got a group of 5 people or 5 couples or something or partnerships or whatever, and then one person goes to each thing in the community once a month, and then you guys all come back together, that's a way to educate everybody. I mean, people, I understand it's like a lot of why we know this, why policy is the way it is because most people are working, raising a family, they're entrepreneurs, are doing all these things. They don't have time to invest in these problems that are generational. They don't have time to go up against the government that is generational abuse.
Yeah, and it's just, again, it's one of those...
Abuse of power, excuse me.
I understand what you're saying here. Yeah, I just, I think you're right, like, to that point of finding groups that can sort of help you get through it. But I think a lot of people just don't even want to be bothered. I think a lot of people...
Fine, then you don't get a voice. You don't get to complain. I don't want to hear your point of view.
No, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you, but that's not how it's going to work.
Well, I mean, I can still tell somebody what I think.
Of course, yeah. But I just... I would like to be in a position... I know this is going to sound so, like, pompous and annoying, but I am trying my best to not make it make it not...
It's okay, we already don't like you.
Boo.
I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Be in a position where I have the time and effort to research all this in depth, and people say, hey, Gatlin, we're just curious, like, what's your take on this? Because I know some comics who send out, and to their credit, I admire that they do this, send out like a Excel cheat sheet of like, hey, this is what I believe we should vote on. I'll say a lot of them tend to be way more left than I align, so I don't really look to them for my personal votes, but someone who's kind of centrist, market-focused in a way, I realize, I think the best way to break down how my political views are, emotionally, I'm very liberal, but mentally, I'm just kind of conservative. And that's where so I hit in the middle when I try to find the middle.
What do you mean how explain that? Break that down.
Healthcare. Perfect issue, right? Emotionally and morally, I believe that like everybody in this country, in a country as rich as ours, should have reasonable access to healthcare. And I think there's a very simplistic, idealistic way of thinking the government should just make it happen. But to me, when you look at the practicality of that happening and look at any institution run by the government, it's terrible. And the fact of the matter is that systems work best when there's competition and when companies or individuals can earn more profit for harder work, for taking risks, for providing a better service. We have terrible internet. Spectrum, they're awful. I'll call you out, Spectrum. Your internet sucks.
It's really bad.
But
We're really, really unhappy.
And for some stupid reason, I've researched it. We can't get other internet at our current building. It's not an option.
But is that government? Isn't that free market? That's why utilities. I was going to say free market's great, but what we really have are monopolies.
Well, so
our media is the perfect example.
So unchecked markets. Whatever allowed that to be the case, that's a problem. That's a bad example. My point is, though...
Well, it's still an example, so I feel like we should go with the one that you
Fine,
provided.
But my point is I was more so saying when there's only one option, it's bad. You need multiple options. Like whatever caused Spectrum to be the only one there is unfortunate. I don't know what the best answer is for making it where healthcare is more affordable for everyone. But in general, when you set up more and more roadblocks for the business sector to be innovative, it hurts the average. Like the bottom line gets hurt the most.
But it's also, I disagree simply because it's like, well, insurance companies are making money, but the average American still doesn't have access to proper health care. So they might have this competitive, whatever, but it's like, I still don't know a single person who would say, oh yeah, my insurance works really smoothly. I feel like I'm getting what I need. It's never a problem calling them. Like, it's always...
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying, though, is the idea that the government's just going to take it over and fix it and make it better, I think is wildly misguided.
Right, but I also think to say that because it would be difficult that there's no way to do it, it's like the system we have right now sucks. So what's the difference? And it's also like if they can figure out... I mean, listen, if we can figure out the, if the Democrats could have figured out how to push Joe Biden as the only viable candidate on the left, I feel like we could figure out how to streamline. It's roadblocks of other people. I definitely agree with you that competition, like people need incentives, 100%. And I think that, necessity breeds innovation. I'm all about that. The best choices I've ever made in my life are because I was up against a wall. So I certainly believe, it's like, and we know that with a lot of people, that some of our friends that sit too comfy aren't really acting on as many things as they could be simply because they don't have to, because they're sitting pretty comfortably. So I definitely agree with you on that aspect. But again, where I always say it's like, I think it's actually more about balance and compromise. But that's why my way of thinking, or, this way of thinking, I'm not the one coining it, but this way of thinking ultimately is the most drives the most solutions, but it doesn't deem people winners. Right. It doesn't deem like we won, we're the number one profit, we're this, we're that. So it's never going to happen. Because again, there's too much ego.
Yeah, I mean, I just think even when you look at like systems that exist where it's supposed to be laid out, this is like why I feel like socialism doesn't work. And when you really think about how it's supposed to operate, right? Even when you look at systems where like the results are supposed to be fair and guaranteed, people still like push through. Like think about waiting for a flight at the air. Like you're at the terminal to go on your flight. You already know your seat. It's already pre-signed up. People still have to like push in front of each other and rush onto the plane and be first. The idea that we're going to make some world where like it's all fair, where everybody's going to get their piece and it's all going to be fine. That's just so insane, especially in a country with 300 million people.
But that's still different than saying our government could 100% come up with a way to provide access, like that everybody would have access to healthcare. That's bullshit. It's bullshit to say that like, well, it would just be too difficult. We don't know how to do it. It's like, first of all, it'd be a tiered system. And then, it's like if you're wanting like, I know Obamacare had like a lot of issues clearly, but also like, did you ever buy like the original iPhone? Like anything you buy the first thing of, like anything that you do the first thing of, especially on that massive scale.
Yeah.
Like to me, it's like, dude, that's like somebody showing up to an improv scene and I'm like, hey, you want to have this sandwich with me? And someone's like, that's not a sandwich, that's a spacecraft. And it's like, all right, well, now we're screwed, you know? It's like what they could have done has been like, great, okay, we applaud Obama and that administration for like trying this, right? Like clearly this system doesn't work. There were so many issues with trying to get it started, but we have this system in place. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll out a 10-year plan to slowly, like once a year, it's going to be like this one element of it we're changing, then this year, then this year, then this year. Right. So over 10 years, 10 years is a long time. But also, like, that's how long it would take for governments to actually be able to implement and reverse different things in order to have a system that somewhat works in a way that is like fair and balanced, and then you could pay in more if you wanted like just like a subscription service, right? Yeah. Like for Hulu. So let's say you just want basic health insurance and you're paying this much. But if you're in a position where you have more money and you're like, well, we also want access to this, this, and this, then your subscription goes up. Then you're just paying this amount of money. So, I mean, there's 1.5 million ways to do it. And I'm not saying it would be simple. I agree with you on all of those things. Where my anger and frustration comes in, not only as an entrepreneur and, you know, a human and an American, is as simple as like, don't tell me that it's too hard and that this other system is the way to do it. Because it's not it. It's simply that that's the way that makes you money.
I get, to just pare it down in the simplest way, I think in general, and I know that people sometimes hear this and they're like, oh, you're just pro-greed, pro-capitalism. I'm not at all. I mean, I like capitalism. I like earning money for my work, obviously, but I don't like the idea of these mega billionaires having so much wealth. That aside, that's like a separate fact. In general, just saying the government will take care of it, I don't think that's a good, and just as a general rule of thumb, that's not a good system. The government's not good at handling complicated systems like this. They're good at like arguing about things in Congress, and
are they though?
I'm saying like I'm saying they're not. Like they're good at arguing over.
But again, it's also like the government needs to stop saying that they don't have relationships with private sectors anyway. Because if you want to say that our government, like that's what I'm trying to get out of Oscar healthcare, because so much of it is owned by Jared Kushner and his dumb face.
Well, hopefully next year we'll get better healthcare.
So I'm just saying, can you give me one?
Finish your thought. I was going to give you one other example of like emotional versus, or unless you want to move on.
Oh, no, that'd be great. But again, the thing is it's like also to say that these insurance companies are just nailing it. That is my argument back to you, which is, well, also this system that's set up right now is abusing people, and it makes it so insanely expensive to be able to even like operate. Like I would say, so when like my brokest year in LA, and I had Medi-Cal, which is basically just like state issued health insurance, right? So you don't have to pay for anything. I would actually say I had the best experience while on that, because there wasn't any like, the only thing that you couldn't do was like you couldn't go to any like other doctor. Obviously, you had to go to people, but that's the same with PPOs, HBO. You see, HBO, all those same things where it's like. But my point is that it was so simplified, and it's like I didn't have to pay for anything. Well, I did because it's paying taxes, but that it was so simplified. I had like, you know, actual relationships like with my doctor and all these things. Like I feel like I had a better experience then than when I switched over to Cigna. When I got onto the SAG healthcare, and then it was like everybody you call, they're like, well, what? And they're like, well, what health insurance do you have? I'm like, Cigna. And they're like, but what level? And then, I mean, it felt like getting, you know, like, it's like you'd think somebody would just have a black belt. It's like, no, but they have a black belt with 4 green stripes.
That
and
is
then
a
like
thing,
a dot.
actually.
No, I know. That's why I'm saying that's the way our healthcare system is. They're like, well, you can't just have Cigna. What kind do you have? I'm like, I don't know, the healthcare kind. So I'm simply saying that I'm not, you know, falling on the sword here saying that the government is the ones that are going to fix it. Yeah. No, but I certainly think that they owe us better than that. And I'm no longer buying this bullshit like blanket quick thing of like, oh, well, you know, it's just that it's like too difficult or, you know, like all that. I'm just not buying it.
Real quick. So Tucker, thank you for all your comments. Also Todd and Ricky. Sorry I didn't have a chance to respond to them, but I've just, you know, I appreciate you guys chiming in and watching. I'm going to read. I do read all the comments.
We always do, yeah.
Even if it's not live, we always read them and we super appreciate them. So thank you again.
Well, what we're looking to do with the rebrand is I would love to be able to get them up here. So when we're doing it,
we could do that.
So that way, like we're always kind of commenting and like integrating it into the show. So like I said, we've got a hot rebrand coming. We're going to be announcing it December 7th. December 7th.
Also, Todd said y'all threw us off with the early start time. Yeah, we had to start early this week.
I know.
If you're still watching, Todd, and also Ricky, thank you for the shout out. Okay, I'll give you one other example where it's sort of like the two sides of me conflict. Okay, and it's on the other end. It's because healthcare is a very complicated one, but I think you and I tend to agree that the war on drugs is really just basically a war on poor people. It doesn't help anybody, right? So my emotional side feels like, without the facts of the war on drugs, just what it's sold to us as. My emotional side is like, well, yeah, drugs are bad. I mean, I don't consider cannabis a harmful drug. So other drugs like the opiates, the methamphetamine type stuff, yes, of course, our government should come in and punish people for selling that, et cetera, et cetera.
But if we're going to do that, then we also shouldn't sell them.
Well, that's my point, right? So then my brain side of it removes the emotional. I'm just giving an example of, you asked me to clarify, like, you know.
Yeah, I'm not coming for you. I'm just saying.
Just when you look at like the logic of how that shook out, oh yeah, the government blew that one too.
But now, taking us back to where we started this episode, which is like, again, when I was saying, I feel like Big Pharma is going to try to commandeer CBD and drive up the price of it in the same way where it's like, oh yeah, we want to take drugs off the street. No, you want to take opiates off of the street, like heroin, and call those people, addicts. And, and criminals and bad people and scary. They're so scary. But if somebody can afford to get high on oxys all day long, and then like that's okay with you because it's feeding, they're fine. That's just a housewife. There's nothing wrong with that. So again, that's my biggest fear, that's all they're going to do is not my biggest fear, but you know what I mean? On my mind.
Well, finish your sentence.
Well, no, now you're talking over me.
I stopped.
Uh-huh. What were we going to say?
I say, so we have one Monday left before the election.
Wow.
And then we're going to be MIA. We're supposed to pre-record a few. We haven't done them yet.
Well, I mean, we got a lot going on right now.
I know. We might do them. We might honestly just do them from the road.
I know. I think that's what's going to
I think we're just going to record them on the phone and just, set. The audio might not be as good, but it might be fun to just do like.
I think it'll be fun. I think we'll need that outlet regardless.
Yeah. What I can do is I can just set up the phone.
Well, we'll talk about it off. I don't think anybody's that interested. But yeah, so
I don't know. I mean, we've got Tucker, Ricky, and Todd tuning in every week. Thank you, Myron. Also, we've got our regulars. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
I know, we're so excited.
We got to wrap it up soon. So,
well, you were just saying something poignant, and then you left off of it. You said we have 1 week left before the election.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts going into the week up to our election, the week up to our wedding? I mean, there's a lot happening in the world, in the country, and in the life of Alex Getlin and Rachel LaForce in the first week of November. This is a very big week for like us and the planet.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously our election affects the globe.
Yeah.
Which is so weird to think about, right? Because like, Caroline, our sister-in-law, like she doesn't even care who becomes president of Brazil. Neither do we. Like nobody cares. I mean, maybe she does a little bit, but like the world does not have any care who runs Brazil. But like everybody's like, oh my God, is Trump still president? Or you know what I'm saying? It's just a weird thing to realize like the whole globe is invested in what happens here.
Yeah. I mean, I think most people have probably all just decided Americans are stupid, to be honest.
I don't know if that's fair.
I do. I feel like when I was in London, I was shocked how many people were like, do you really know people that like voted for Trump? Like people like really thought that was like a good idea. Like people are just like, Americans are so stupid.
Okay.
I'm not saying everybody, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
that I think we are reality TV for the rest of the world. That's what I think.
Well,
I think like tuning in to like Beverly Hills Housewives is like, that's what everybody does with like American politics.
I mean, that's true in a way because America's biggest export is cultural influence.
Yeah.
That and weapons.
Oh, wow. See, that's something to write home about.
But I'm serious.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like, the quote, like, God will never give you more than you can handle. That's how I feel this week. That's where I'm at, where I'm like, I mean, full disclosure, before we came here, I had a Reiki healing in our living room. So if that'll tell you
where you're at.
And my favorite joke of my stand-up joke when I used to talk about Reiki, and then I would say, if you're not familiar, Reiki is Sanskrit for make-believe. So that's a way that I like to waste my money.
Todd said he wants a wedding behind-the-scenes episode.
Ooh, little BTS.
Yeah, we'll do a Monday night recap.
That'd be fun.
Although, yeah, I mean, we'll be You know what? We'll talk off air.
Okay, yeah.
Todd, we got something for you. Don't worry.
I like the suggestion, Todd Rod. We got one coming. Yeah, I feel like there's just so much happening, and I feel like in some ways there's so much that it's on kind of like, I hate saying spiritual because I just feel like every time I say that, like I feel my like eyes roll back in the back of my head. But for lack of a better word, I'll try to come up with one. But or maybe it's well-being, like for all of our like better well-being. It's like so much is happening right now that I think in some ways it's kind of teaching us to just roll with it. And like in some ways I know right now it feels like everything is so dire, but if we really again have that like zoom out of how many times in history have we been told this is the most pivotal moment? How many times have we read about pivotal moments in history? And I'm not to say that any of this should be taken lightly or that it doesn't matter, but I think it's more of the ability to take it in stride and to recognize it as something that needed to happen, that is happening, and whatever does happen on the other side, whether it's Trump for another 4 years or Biden for 4, that, you know, what is going to happen is going to happen, and our work is not done on either side. So even, you know, we're not going to find out the next day. I think that's my only...
Well, only if it's like a landslide either way.
But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be. I mean, if that many people came out and voted for Trump, like that thing, I think it was you, or maybe it was my friend. No, it was my dear friend Adam, and he was sharing, I don't know, it was a friend from college or something, and he's from like a really rural town, and he was talking about, he's like, you know, I think so many of why those polls were like putting Hillary so far ahead is you have to think about all these good old boys that hadn't come out and voted in years, maybe ever. And then they all showed up. None of those people are accounted for.
Yep.
Nobody knew they were coming. So now we at least know that like that huge populace exists, but it's now knowing you know, like we've already seen in early voting, like how many people have come out versus in 2016.
I'm kind of surprised. There must be a legal reason why they don't do this, but I wonder why they aren't showing the results so far of early voting. I guess they don't want to. I guess because they don't want it to affect anything by the deadline.
Maybe. I don't know that either.
Yeah, but it would be interesting if we could see where, like, who they're going towards. But I suppose there must be some rule that, like, because if you saw, like, let's say you saw there was a landslide early vote for Biden, it might activate people to vote for Trump and make people who are like too lazy to vote be like, he's already got it. So I could see that. Yeah. I will say this. I think there's a real danger in looking at polls anymore. Regardless.
Yeah.
Because all the polls keep showing, from what I've seen, that Biden has a clear lead. But, like, dude, there's been like 4 Trump rallies in Beverly Hills this month.
Yeah.
So like, and we're in Los Angeles. I mean, I know Beverly Hills is very rich, but it's like, I don't know. It's just my only hope. And I've said this before on my other podcast, Let Me Be Clear, and I might have said it on here.
Wait, I'm sorry, what podcast?
Let Me Be Clear. It's usually every Tuesday with me, but sometimes I'm kind of busy right now. So it comes out by Thursday. It's my solo podcast. It's all politics talk with other comedians. Anyway, I know. You're probably like, what? We've heard enough of your opinions. But if for some reason...
But don't worry. If you want more, he does it in the middle of our living room.
I will say Highly Unlikely is totally non-political. It's all fun stuff.
It's just going to be getting comedians stoned and talking about cool stuff. Yeah. So you got to watch it. But finish your thought.
Yeah.
And then let's go.
Because people have been like, why are you going to get married right after the election? Isn't that crazy? And I said, no, well, one, it kind of happened by circumstance, but also...
Yeah, we didn't really have a choice.
I really want to give this advice to anyone. Don't let this election control your happiness or your life. I understand that there's a lot of people who are very afraid if Trump remains president. I know people who are afraid if Biden becomes president, and I'm not saying that's invalid. But at the end of the day, there's only so many things in your control. And it's really, really important to not lose sight of the reason we're alive, the things day to day that give us happiness and purpose. I mean, we're going to have one of the most beautiful moments of our life the Saturday after. And maybe we'll be upset at the results. Maybe we won't care. Maybe we'll have mixed feelings, whatever. The point is, you got to move on with your life. You can't cling to this emotional meltdown from these events. You just have to, at a certain point, like you say, what was it? Accept surrender or whatever? Like,
oh, yeah, something like that.
I got to go back and listen. But it's like, just accept surrender. You know what? My team didn't win, but I'm going to still live my best life.
I just still can't believe you didn't know who Kathy the cartoon was or the Grand Ole Opry. We have so much to learn this week.
Well, guys, I've been Alex Getlin.
I've been your favorite Rachel LaForce. Guys, this was so much fun. Again, we are here every week. Normally at 5:30. I know we kind of switched up a little bit today. The studio was booked. But yeah, we're here every Monday, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern.
I'll give you one little tease. We might be changing our time slot for 2021 and perhaps not only doing Monday. Just a little snippet. We'll see. We'll let you guys know by December.
Little tease. Yeah. So we got a hot rebrand. I actually did say today that we have a new time. I did put that on Instagram. Okay. Yeah. So new rebrand, new time, maybe more than once a week. So yeah, we're going to be teasing that and we'll have that coming out in December. Again, if you plan on voting, early vote, get your vote in. And if you choose not to vote, I disagree, but that's your choice. Guys,
you can also vote not for president and just vote for other things in your local community. That's also an option.
Ooh, very smart.
I've told people that. I said, remember, if you're like, I can't vote for any of these candidates, that's okay. But you could probably pick like a thing on your like city council elections or.
That's incredibly bright because I have had a few folks come to me and they're like, my partner doesn't want to vote. And do you have any advice on what? And I'm like, oh God, no, I don't. But
should have had him talk to me.
I know. But there you go. See, you're our political pundit now.
There you go. It's in the works. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Thank you so much.
Okay, we love you. Bye.